How you doing, everybody? It's Thursday, it's the 4th of October, or November, 4th of November, 2010, and it's after lunch, and it's a horrible day outside. It's been raining all morning, but I don't think it's going to, hopefully it'll pick up. Anyway, listen, I do these little videos, and as you know, I've done nearly 250 of them. I've come up with mine, nearly to 250 of them, and they're all about only a small amount of things. They're about politics and about economics, and about the determining factors which govern politics and economics in any modern Western capitalist society. And that's the church and the media, the state media and the private media. And that's really all I talk about. And there's enough sins in there, in those 4 or 5 things, but you could talk about for 10 lifetimes. I just want to talk about the media today. And before I do that, one of the articles, because what I'm going to say now leads into the first little article about the media. And what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the march, the student march that they had yesterday in Dublin. And before I do that, I want to apologise to the student body profoundly. I want to offer my serious, profound apologies, because I did not believe that they would turn out in the numbers that they did. Now, just very, very briefly, I've been able to get 3 numbers of, this is this morning ringing round. In the newspapers, I rang 2 people, but in the newspapers were saying there was more than 20,000 turned up. Now, they never tell you the truth, so you have to forget about what they say, okay? They play everything down when it suits them and play everything up when it suits them. So it's not in their interest to say large numbers of students came out in Dublin yesterday. But they were prepared to admit that over 20,000 came out. I then rang the students, one of the student organising bodies now. It wasn't in Dublin, but it doesn't matter. And they told me that they sent busloads up, and they estimated there was between 32 and 35,000 at the march. So then finally I rang a friend, a family member, a distant family member, who was one of the organisers of the march, and he studies mathematics, and he's away distant, like not directly linked to me at all, but I know him. And I rang him up, got his number, and I rang him up and I said, how many people turned up? How did you know that? Oh, he said, one of the guys out of the department, he's involved in mathematics, he done one of the actuarial things they do. They have these actuarial things. 43 minutes it took to pass, and then they take a little bite out of it. They take a bite for like a half a minute, you know, all through the march, and then they tote them all up, and they divide them, and they divide it into the number of the 43 minutes, and it gives you the figure. And it's a rough figure, but it's reasonably accurate. So he said there was 27,000 people on the march, approximately, and that's a conservative estimate. He said there was probably more. All right. Anyway, I'm going to work off that figure, which it sounds very feasible to me that that's how many, because lots of people that I know basically had to vacate Dublin yesterday. They said it just closed down for a couple of hours that they were on their march, right? But anyway, what happened was in the middle of all this march, about 250 people chose to break away and to throw eggs and to have fisticuffs for guards. So out of 27,000 people, less than 1% of them engaged in scuffles. That's what they were. Just scuffles. Now, how many people do you think were arrested as a result of all this? How many people do you think were arrested? 2 people were arrested. Not 200, not 100, not 50. 2! Do you know how many people are arrested on an average weekend in Dublin? On an average weekend in Dublin for like antisocial behaviour, like urinating in the streets and challenging guards and all that sort of stuff, and squaring up the guards and all that. You know what I mean? How many people do you think are under the Public Order Act? How many people do you think are arrested? It's between 50 and 100 every weekend, and 27,000 people turn out yesterday to demonstrate on the streets of Dublin, and 2 of them are arrested. So serious ratting. Have a read. I put up the front page of several newspapers. Have a look at them. Serious ratting going on in Dublin. I mean, who are these people kidding? Who do these people think they're talking to? This is what you're up against. Anyway, I hope that the people who did participate in that march sent something out of it. Because when you have a large amount of people on a march like that, and they're the people of this country, these are the young people, this is our future. These people are our future. 20 years from now, these people will be administering and running this country. I hope they sensed something yesterday. Hope they sensed a simple thing. We live in a republic. And it's not called a republic by accident. It's Republica, the thing, the state of the people. That's what it is. And I hope they sensed the sovereignty of our state doesn't lie in our government. The sovereignty of our state doesn't lie in our constitution. The sovereignty of our state doesn't lie with our judiciary. The sovereignty of our state doesn't lie in our president. The sovereignty of our state doesn't lie in flags, emblems, or any of that fucking nonsense. It lies in one place. The will of the people of this country. The will of the citizenry of this country. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. Nowhere else. All the rest is bullshit. And what we've got to do is we have to reclaim that back. We have to reclaim, in the name of the Irish people, our sovereignty back. And we do that by, at the next election, kicking this shower of incompetent criminals out on their arse. And putting somebody else in. It doesn't matter who they are. You could get orangutans up from Dublin too. A whole group of them. And they'd make a better job than this crowd have done over the last 11 years. We'd have been better getting orangutans. They couldn't have made a bigger balls up than this crew has done. What a crowd. What a crowd. Anyway, I hope those people, those young people, sense that. That's all you have to do. We have to reclaim our country. I want to move on. I want to talk about an article that appeared last night. I read it. I want to read it. I had to read it actually about 4 times. Written by this man here, and I put a link to it so you can follow it. But I just want to put it up and have a let you so you understand what I'm talking about. Okay? We can see that. See this guy here. His name is Jerry O'Carroll. It's called Laying Down the Law, and it's about this woman here. See this woman here? That's our obese Minister of Health. See there? That's her there. And when I saw this first, see it says here, the attack on Harney was cowardly, stupid and totally wrong. When I saw this first, and I thought this was blood. See, if you read this article, you'd believe this was blood. So I had to read it very, very carefully. And it turns out, what is it? It's paint. It's watered down paint. It was put into a balloon and thrown at Mrs. Harney, or Miss Harney, by a protester, a young girl from Ballyfermot. When I saw it first, what I thought had happened was, I thought one of those parents of one of those cystic fibrosis children had stuck a knife into Harney's neck. That's what I thought had happened. No. See this here? The only thing damaged in Miss Harney, this body here that you see, this obese body, the only part of it that's damaged is its pride. Nothing else. But I tell you what will happen. I don't know who this young girl is. She's involved in some so-called left-wing radical crowd. Right? I don't want to go into that. That's another day's work. I'm not interested in what she's involved in. But as I would say to Mr. O'Carroll writing that article, Mr. O'Carroll, in other European states, that little girl would be eulogised. Because what you have to do is you have to weigh up a girl throwing a paint bomb at a minister, and a minister who's let 52 of my fellow citizens die unnecessarily. You get real, Mr. O'Carroll. But you come from a very colourful background. You don't say too much about that in any of your articles. Don't forget, we all remember, us older types all remember the Kerry Babies case in 1984 when you and 3 of your senior officers out of the murder squad went down and sorted out, you remember that one? The massive murder down in friggin' the arsehole of nowhere in County Kerry. Oh yeah, you were going to sort it out. Young 24-year-old girl. Friggin' postnatal depression she suffered for. She needs psychiatric help. She's got 4 members of the murder squad shouting and roaring down her throat. I wonder were you one of the good cops or the bad cops in that one? Because that's how they work. Please believe me, I got plenty of experience with it. I got loads of experience with it. You know the good cop, bad cop scenario? By the way, that's how they work when these policemen interrogate you. Generally speaking. One comes in as a good policeman, the other one comes in as a bad one. Do you know that? I asked him, out of the 4, were you a good cop or a bad cop in that one? Anyway, just want to finally say one thing about the whole business. When you want to find out about anybody, you just scrape them, just scratch them. And generally speaking, in a modern Western capitalist society, when you scrape them, it shows the colour of their money. You've got two major incomes, two sources of major income at the minute, Mr. O'Carroll. You got one from the Garda Síochána, the state, the people pay that. It's a massive pension you get, because you were a senior Garda officer. And I'd say you get the best part of £1,000 a week as a pension. And I don't know how much you get for being one of the social correspondents for that rag, but I'd say, I'm sure, it's not too far off the same again, if not more. So, it's in your interest to support your minister. Oh yeah, very much so. Look at her. There's a woman. There's a much maligned woman. Look at her. Finally, one thing, Mary, I want to say to you, Mary Harney. You want to give up that black. See all that black you're wearing? You want to give that up. The red suits you better. You look better in the red. And I'm no fashion expert. Anyway, listen, we'll talk more.